the quarterback narratives will be very interesting in this one because you've got Rocco Becht, who I think people have all like just accepted. He's been around now for a long time, 3 years. Like Rocco Becht is considered legitimate, bona fide, very good Big 12 starting quarterback. Avery Johnson, again, has the hype, and I think a lot of people like. You have more people thinking that Avery Johnson could have a Heisman type season, probably than Rocco Becht, just because people see the tantalizing talent that he has. But you've got a chance for Avery to really assert himself as one of the absolute top guys, if not the top guy in the Big 12 right away. Hello and welcome into another edition of Three Ma. I am John Kurtz, joined by Derek Young and Cole Manbeck. We are here, folks. The season is here. This is the official Iowa State preview edition of Three Ma, which calls for a toast from our friends at Holiday Distillery. Raise your Ben Holiday bottled in bond bourbon at 7:37 a.m. as we record this. DY raised his glass, so I have to assume that's Ben Holiday bottled in bond bourbon. Right as I said that. Maybe some 360 vodka as well. You'll notice this is not talking about the watch party anymore, folks, because if you waited too long, you missed out. The tickets are sold out to the watch party on Saturday. So thank you to everybody who bought tickets. We have been blown away by the response and really look forward to seeing you all on Saturday. But you can't go unless, well, Cole tells me if you can get on like the guest list. Apparently I've got like some guest passes. So your only option at this point is to just suck up to me. So, you know, all you guys in the YouTube comments, start sucking up right now, buddy. That's the only shot you got. I think Cole's guest list is already too full.
Yeah, I don't think we're supposed to promote that guest list, so
they'll be fine. Look, Cole, it's okay. We just sold the place out, man. What are they gonna do? What are they gonna do?
All right. Okay. Well, it'll be a ton of fun. Looking forward to seeing everybody. It'd be a ton of fun as I don't sleep the night before and don't eat for 24 hours. I feel nauseous about what my college football team will do on the field on Saturday and dictate my entire life's happiness over a 3-hour span.
DY, what are you going to eat before? What kind of Irish fare are you going to take in?
It's probably going to be Saturday. I was going to say I was going to get drink, but I don't know.
Oh, you were about to say bar food, not barf, I assume, right?
Yeah. I was like, no, I won't be patrolling the bars on game day. Maybe I should, but
I mean, I don't know. You're in Ireland. I feel like that's probably
a Guinness tour on Friday, so that's probably when I'm going to be at my weirdest.
Okay, well, try to keep Mason under control. I know that'll be a difficult thing. Get him around.
Yeah, he's filming. They're recording Power Cat game day on Friday, so.
Oh, he's not going on the Guinness tour?
He is.
Oh, okay. Well, that's awesome. Have fun, Mitch. Okay. All right. Well, I know, a little bit of FOMO. Everybody heading to Ireland. Been great watching people. If anybody is watching or listening to the show from Ireland, greetings. I hope you're having a blast. Hope you're having an incredible time. Okay. Cole, I know. What am I supposed to do about your background? And you requested a segment. How do you want this to go down? I can only assume that is a blown up picture of the 1912 Iowa State Conference champions.
It is, John. It is the 1912 the Ames Cyclones, Iowa State College, 1912. It's got the roster written out, back row, front row as well. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it. When I went to have this blown up at Kinko's and FedEx yesterday, they said to me, they left a voicemail. I posted it on the Discord. The voicemail said, it's really blurry. It didn't come out very well. The quality is very low. Do you have a better quality image? And I said, no, I don't have a better quality image because it's 1912. All right. And that is the last time Iowa State was relevant in anything. So I can't find a better picture or image. John, why are you getting so nervous looking? John's looking a little nervous right now.
Cole, I mean, they won 11 games and beat K-State last year. I don't like what.
You're right. In fact, John, that is a great point. And I think now is when perhaps we should honor that 1912 Cyclones team. You know, as we open the 2025 college football season, we at 3MAW believe it's important we pay respect to our opponent's significant accomplishments throughout their program's history. Today,
Cole believes.
There's supposed to be music playing. Is there something playing in the background?
Yes, it's the Titanic theme song.
Oh, okay.
Today, we honor the Iowa State football team from 1912, which is the last Cyclone squad to have won a conference championship, marking what remains the program's second conference title in school history. No FBS team in college football has gone longer than Iowa State without winning a league title. The Cyclones' 113-year drought is 11 years longer than the next closest FBS program in Vanderbilt, which last won a league title in 1923. In 1912, Iowa State was referred to as Ames, or Iowa State College, and didn't even have an official locker room until State Gym opened a year later in the spring of 1913. I believe that's around the same time the current Iowa State press box was built, which once leaked plumbing from the ceiling onto the computer of our friend and colleague, Derek Young, prior to the kick of the 2018 game in Ames. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see the team photo in black and white hanging behind me. Led by head coach Clyde Williams, who coached his sixth and final season that year, the 1912 Cyclones team was declared co-champions of the Missouri Valley Conference. They shared the conference championship with Nebraska after an impressive 2-0 league record. Following a difficult loss 5-0 to Minnesota to open the 1912 season, the Cyclones showed the resilience that's been a staple of their football program that encapsulates the last 113 years of irrelevance. The 1912 squad bounced back to defeat perennial power Simpson College 24-7. According to Iowa State Student Yearbook, the solid performance against Simpson was due to a, quote, good showing they made at Minnesota and gave them needed confidence, end quote. They proceeded to defeat Missouri 29-0. Quote, victory wasn't a surprise at home, wrote the Ames Daily Intelligencer, but there were wagers up that the team would do such a one-sided drubbing to the Tigers, end quote. They knocked off Grinnell, Morningside, Cornell, before losing to rival Iowa 20-7. They defeated Drake 27-3 in the regular season finale, improving to 6-2. And guys, this is where things get really interesting. And dare I say, controversial. Nebraska and Iowa State were tied in the Missouri Valley standings with the 2-0 league record. Tiebreakers were discussed to determine the outright championship, but didn't work. It was proposed that the two teams play each other in a postseason game to determine the champion, given they didn't play each other in the regular season. Nebraska agreed to do it. Iowa State refused. Quote, the Ames faculty paid no attention to the request received from Nebraska the week prior to the Iowa State game, in which Nebraska made a requesting suggestion for a championship game, wrote the Ames Daily Intelligencer. There was a faculty rule already laid down against postseason games in which the Cyclones might be a party, and the faculty sticks to the rule, end quote. Iowa State's had a couple chances over the last 5 seasons, folks, to end its conference championship drought, but fell short in the 2020 and 24 title game, farther extending the pain. The Cyclones, once again, will hope to end that pain as they open league play against K-State and Ireland, kicking off a season with the dream that this is the year that ends the slump. We'll see if they can do the 1912 team proud and add to the desolate trophy case in the Iowa State football complex.
Boy, I hope K-State wins the game. I sure hope K-State wins the game. Can we talk about, people get frustrated with Brett Yormark. I love that was covering up your family.
Yep. That's how much I wanted to pay respect to them, guys. I covered my family because I want to honor them. So if you're watching here, look at these guys.
Are they shirtless?
It's hard to tell because, again, the photos from 1912, it's really blurry because, again, there's not a lot of great imagery from back then, poor camera quality, but I think they have shirts on, John.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. People get mad at Brett Yormark, for what he's done with the schedule because in this bloated conference, like there's so many teams, unbalanced schedules. Can we talk about unbalanced schedules? They played 2 Missouri Valley Conference games, but yet they played they have a schedule full of 8 games here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why could they not play more teams from their conference? I don't understand. It was Drake, Missouri, Kansas, Wash U, which is in St. Louis. That seems regional enough. I don't understand what's going on here.
Yeah, I don't know, John. And I mean,
remember that was before World War I, the last Iowa State championship.
Yeah. Also, was Minnesota? They said they got confidence from playing Minnesota. Minnesota lost their season opener to South Dakota, 10-0.
They must have played. Minnesota might have played a game before. Maybe Minnesota had a week 0 game back then. Yeah,
week zero started before World War One, not in the 21st century.
Yeah.
Well, I just mean like Minnesota wasn't good. I know Minnesota was good back in the day, but they were 4-3. It was not a.
Well, I appreciate the research that you're putting into this, and I hope everybody, if anyone from Iowa State listens to that, I hope they know that I'm truly trying to do them justice and pay respect to their last championship. So,
I just want everybody to know I am cognizant of the fact that Iowa State won 11 games last year and has beaten K-State 4 the last 5 times. I certainly hope that changes, but we shall see.
Yeah, I'm cognizant to the fact that they lost in the conference championship 45-19 last year, and then in 2020, the COVID season, when we watched Matt Campbell nearly verbally assault an official and had to pray for his safety out there on the field. So,
Actually, I would argue smart move by Matt Campbell to do it then, because we all know 2020 doesn't count. So he actually did not verbally assault an official.
It's true. The most impactful trophy in the Iowa State trophy case comes from a season that didn't actually count when they beat 3-3 Oregon in the Fiesta Bowl. So
kind of like those 1912 records that everybody had, and now we've come full circle. So we.
Oh, that's great! Good job, John.
Good job, John. There it is.
Yeah,
Where he pulled out his knife.
Yeah, thank you for finishing him off right there. So I wounded them significantly, but John ended it right there. So,
oh man. Okay. Well, you guys want to react to the depth chart for headline number 1? That seems so.
Yeah, we're going to have to be quick to get it all in before a break, but yeah.
It just also seems very mundane to be doing this. To be doing this after all that. I don't know. Should we just take a break?
Probably.
Wow. All right.
Let's take a break. And reset. Everybody, catch your breath, gather yourself, and we'll come back and talk about. Backup right guard next.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
I'm Brett Goodwin, one of the owners of The Learning Tree. The Learning Tree is a neighborhood toy store in Prairie Village, Kansas. This has been here in this location since 2000s, and my husband Alan and I purchased the store in 2023. Alan and I grew up in families where we've always wanted to have a business together. Alan grew up, for instance, his parents had a jewelry store. I worked in a local toy store here in Prairie Village when I was growing up. When this opportunity happened in 2023, we knew right away we wanted to contact them and pursue the store. We wouldn't have been able to get the store without the team at Emprise Bank. From the day we contacted them, they knew what we needed to do, which was very helpful. I would absolutely recommend the team at Emprise Bank to anyone looking to secure a business. We worked with Emprise from day one. They were extremely helpful. They were always great resources. We talk to them frequently. They know the area. They're very friendly. We know who we're going to talk with, and they know what we need to do. We hope we'll see you at the Learning Tree.
Folks, nothing beats hanging out with the boys on a hot summer day and watching some baseball. And the simplest way that you all can get in on the action is to download the Pick 6 app from DraftKings. It is crazy simple. Just pick more or less on the stats for 2 or more of your favorite players, and boom, you're in the mix for big cash prizes. And the best part is, Pick 6 is available right here in Missouri. Don't miss out on the fun. Don't settle for a smaller payout. Switch to Pick 6, and right now, new customers can get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Here's what you got to do. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and then use code KCSN. That's code KCSN for new customers to get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Void where prohibited. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit. Bonus picks expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
All right, depth chart reactions here. Let me run through what I think are the biggest No Gunnar Maldonado or Colby McAllister listed at safety. Terrence Enos looks like has won the right tackle job, although I'm sure we're going to see Andrew Langang quite a bit. But there's no or besides Terrence Enos at the right tackle spot. There are a ton of ors in the defensive end room. I mean, it's basically like everybody's an or. Asa Newsom's not on there at linebacker, but Bo Palmer is. Luis Rodriguez is the kicker because apparently 2 kickers are hurt. And Dylan Duff has battled into an or situation at backup quarterback. So the intel that we had received on Dylan Duff seemed to be accurate, or at least reflected that way in the depth chart. And I know DY, the defensive stuff is a little tricky because they're listed as a 3-man front, which we feel like they're probably going to be in a 4-man front quite a bit of the time. So, how do you reconcile some of that, especially the linebackers? I don't know. But your biggest takeaways from that list?
Yeah, it was hard. I guess my takeaway is there's a lot of unknowns still in the defense. Does this mean there'll be multiple? Maybe they'll play a little bit more 3 down than we were anticipating. Maybe it's matchup dependent. Maybe it's opponent dependent. Maybe it's going to be split. Maybe it's down and distance dictates what they'll do. If you're that multiple, you have a tricky, possibility of maybe, analysis. What is a paralysis by analysis with some of your players? Hopefully that doesn't happen. But you could also be very tough to go up against as an offense when they have that much to prepare for and to consider. So those things are interesting. Because of that, there wasn't a whole lot to glean from on the defense to me, aside from what you laid out in terms of who was listed and who wasn't. I think was probably the largest takeaways. And then offensively, it was the offensive line was really the surprise or the enlightening detail. And the way that I absorbed it and consumed it was that your starters or left or right will be mostly what we thought, or maybe all we thought, depending on what you thought was going to happen at right tackle, with it being Pastore, Portier, Hecht, Nelson, and Enos. And then Andrew Langang will be basically, if the first guy off the bench, probably regardless of position outside of center, I would think.
Yeah, maybe they looked at that defensive depth chart and decided, hey, the 3-3-5 might not be bad to utilize against Iowa State, DY, because last year K-State held Iowa State to one of its worst offensive games in years. And Rocco Beck, had his worst game of his career, 13-35 passing for 137 yards, his 88.9 passer grading, worst of his career, 3.9 yards per pass attempt, worst of his career, 48.2 offensive grade by PFF was a career worst, etc. Iowa State as a team averaged 3.8 yards per play against K-State last year. The lowest yards per play by the Cyclones team since November 17, 2018 at Texas, a span of 81 games, which again makes it all the more frustrating that Kansas State squandered so many opportunities to win in Ames last year and would have kept Iowa State potentially out of the Big 12 championship. But it's kind of hard to read into the depth chart because of the 3-3-5 format when we expected a 4-2-5 structure. So Rex Van Wise listed as a starter, Gabe Powers as a backup, when we know Gabe Powers will probably take a few more snaps in all likelihood than Rex Van Wise. You look at the safety spot. I think the concern is obviously, I think we knew that there was a chance Colby McAllister or Gunnar Maldonado might not play in this game. But to not have both, which are 2 of your more experienced players on the back end of the defense, and I say that knowing Maldonado's new to K-State, but an extremely experienced player with 30 starts in his college football career, and not having him, and then Colby McAllister, a guy who's been in your program several years and been on the football field, to miss both those guys on the back end on a K-State defense that has struggled with communication errors over the last couple of years and giving up explosives, and you're breaking in a couple new guys in the secondary, not a couple, several. Zayshawn Rich, 112 defensive snaps last year, and Donovan McIntosh, 55 in his career. So your 2 corners, very minimal experience, albeit very talented. When you look at the offensive side of the ball, Enos, we'd heard buzz on Terrence Enos really having a nice fall camp early on. I think there was some, discussion as well that Andrew Langang potentially overtakes him. The Pitt transfer came in. He's been good since he got here by all accounts. Look, I know that I've seen some comments on YouTube from somebody who probably knows Terrence Enos, and I understand you're probably frustrated when you hear us say he didn't grade out well, gave up a lot of pressures at Pitt. Look, we hope we hope what?
That's the Discord. That is not me.
I didn't say it was you. I was just making clear it's really not even the Discord, John. It's really the Pro Football Focus and some of the grades and analytics that grade him very poorly.
Oh, it's the Discord.
And
It's the Discord.
all right, well, I will just say, like, look, hopefully getting into a new system, a new coaching staff unlocks a better version of Terrence Enos. Maybe it's just a better fit, and we hope he's great for K-State. And the fact that he doesn't have an oar on the depth chart at right tackle tells you that he's probably been pretty solid, which is kind of accounting for what we heard in fall camp. So he's going to be a big piece, for this K-State offensive line until George Fitzpatrick gets back and hopefully lock down the right side. But, Andrew Lengang, it's 5 years now, guys, where he's not a starter on the depth chart. We hear buzz about him for the last couple of years, and he just doesn't. He played 300 plus snaps last year, but he can't crack, that starting rotation.
Yeah, I mean, we've had that conversation before. At this point, I think he is what he is. Seems to be like a swing player with a lot of versatility. There's a ton of value in that for sure. Look, my stance always like, I was not grinding the pit tape from last year. I haven't watched. I don't have a PFF login. Okay, maybe I should. I'm trusting what the coaches are saying, and they generally. I know it's a new offensive line coach here, but everybody really likes Brian LePack. I'm going to trust that Terrence Enos is going to be fine. So it's grinded my gears a little bit. The freak out from there. So I'm here to be a defender and be a part of that fan club.
If Terrence Enos can beat out Andrew Lengang, I think that's a good sign.
Yeah, and Andrew Lengang will probably play some at right tackle too.
I think Andrew Langang's going to end up with a starter amount of snaps. I think you're going to have 6 guys with probably starter level snaps.
He's listed as an oar behind JB Nelson, right? But I don't want to take JB Nelson off the field. So,
well, we don't know what's going on there. Obviously, my hypothesis is they probably like their depth at tackle more than their depth at guard, so that was their way to put more names on the depth chart at tackle.
Yeah, and how about Adonis Moise being second behind? Is he second behind Jace at wide receiver on the depth chart, or is he an oar with Caleb Medford? Right. So
he was an oar with Caleb Medford.
Yeah. So a lot of buzz on the true freshman receiver from Florida.
Yeah, and hey, according to the press conference, I mean, we could see Gunnar Maldonado or Colby McAllister, right?
Yeah, well, Colby probably not. He made it sound like McAllister was doubtful.
That's right. It was Asa that we maybe would see.
And Asa and Gunnar, he said, were questionable. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So they have a better chance, the two of the
Colby.
three there. All right. Well, anything else real quick before we move on to our top storyline here on the depth chart? Like, how do you feel about Dylan Duff just coming right in and he's an oar with those two guys at backup quarterback?
Would mean that he's probably really, really mature for a true freshman, because Jacob Knuth was in the backup battle last year, and the true freshman Blake Barnett couldn't get in the mix last year. So it would seem that Duff is much further ahead than Barnett was this time last year. So that would be, and it probably means that he's as good as they thought he was going to be when Chris Kleiman raved about him on signing day more than anyone else in the class.
Well, yeah. I hope that it's that. I hope that it's that.
Yeah. I was just confirming. Yeah, it is an oar with Jacob Knuth, Duff, and Blake Barnett.
That's what I anticipated all along. But,
yeah.
I just, I would have hoped that one of the other guys could have taken that job over, but we shall see. Hopefully, it doesn't matter. Okay, top storyline.
Yeah, if it gets to that, I'm out.
Wow. Okay. All right. Totally out, huh? I feel like I've referenced this on the show before, but that's like the old Peyton Manning thing, right? Who was it that one of the old Colts head coaches said, like, they were asked him at practice, like, why is the backup not getting any reps? And they're like, because if 18's out, we're effed.
We're effed. We don't practice that.
Yeah.
Who was it? Chuck Pagano was one of those Colts coaches. Yeah.
Tom Moore.
Tom Moore.
Coordinator.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Thank you. Good job, Cole.
Yep.
Okay. Peyton Manning is not our top storyline of the week, but the top storyline of the week is brought to you by our good friends at Alenco, alencohome.com, ALENCO home.com, to get hooked up with them for all your home improvement needs. Great K-State folks who support us here on the show. Look, this game, I know that like Stan Weber came on and said, don't fold up shop on the season if they lose, and that is certainly true. But I think it's impossible to deny this is a tone-setting game for the season. we talk a lot about swing games. I mean, you can argue others for a swing game too, but this will swing a lot with this season. I mean, this is a pretty loaded, it's a very loaded game in terms of everything that goes into it. You've lost 4 of the last 5 to Iowa State and Matt Campbell. The entire country is going to be watching, so this could launch hype for you for the rest of the year, or you could be forgotten very quickly in week 1 because everybody watched you and you didn't perform well. You know, the Avery Johnson thing, there's a lot of differing opinions on him, but tons of people, I think, nationally still respect the upside and the talent there. You could be talking about, a Heisman campaign maybe a little strong, but like a lot of buzz is him being the best quarterback in the Big 12 in a loaded league of QBs if he goes out and performs well, especially if he does it against Rocco Becht. Like, just I think for the fan sentiment of the season and excitement of the season, and I always like to talk about like the fun quotient of the season, like how fun and exciting and how much will be built up around the entire season and the actual games that are happening. I think this will go a long way toward determining how much of that happens this year, whether you win or lose.
If Kansas State wins, it'll be about that they can definitely win the Big 12. If they lose, it'll be that Kleiman's lost to Iowa State 3 out of 4 years and 5 out of 6, which is a real thing that you'll probably hear about for multiple weeks. A year, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's an absolutely monstrous opportunity, John. You outlined everything right out of the gate there. I mean, this is a huge branding opportunity. You're going to be the talk of college football week 1. It's a top 25 matchup. I mean, you've watched these Ireland games before, and it's been Navy versus Notre Dame. It's Northwestern, Nebraska. I mean, it's teams that go 3-9. Last year, you had Florida State, Georgia Tech, probably the best matchup that you could have. And then Florida State season went into a complete tailspin, right? But this is a matchup the people of the country have caught on to, like the whole Farmageddon angle. It's in the ESPN promo as well. Like, it's a catchy name. People are going to be watching this game. They're starved for college football. And so if you can come out, play well, win this game, it can be a springboard opportunity for a K-State team that's already top 20 in the country and get a lot of respect against an Iowa State team that's respected. You know, Iowa State comes into this game 22nd, 21st in a couple of the different polls. Some of the advanced metrics like them as the second best team in the Big 12. And so, yeah, this is a really important game. I mean, you'd have to go back for a season opening game in K-State football history. 1996 is the only comparative game out there that, you know, against Texas Tech, and only because it was a Big 12 opener as well, but it was at home. It was the inauguration game of the Big 12, and so it was a huge opportunity. But this just feels different. Neutral site game, Ireland, chance for Avery Johnson to showcase his talents, and you got to come out ready to play. If you don't, you lose this game. Like, the fan base is going to be in a state of anger and frustration because you can't lose 5 of 6 to Iowa State. You just can't.
It's not the same level, but they've done this before, right? Neutral site game, first game of the year, and it almost had just as much excitement, not because of the stakes of the game and it being Iowa State, but because we were coming off the year of COVID where the crowds were really diminished. That was 21 when they opened up with Stanford at AT&T Stadium.
And that went pretty well. I would just like the record to show that Cole just said that Iowa State was a respected program. So if anybody doubted his sincerity from that open, he just backed it up with his comments a second ago. I didn't want that to go unnoticed.
Well, respected by some people. I mean, I'm not lumping myself in. I don't respect teams.
You only do bits on, to be honest, no one would do a bit on a team they didn't respect. So,
well, last time I did a bid on Iowa State was the Bridge one. We won 10-9. That's the last time we beat Iowa State. So I am okay. All right. I didn't do one in 2023 and 24. I'm thinking the Heat.
You're the reason.
So I'm trying to bring back the good vibes here, guys. I'll throw this in. Matt Campbell in August and September in his coaching career at Iowa State, which dates back to 2016. In those months, 4-14 against Power 4 opponents. 17-16 overall, excluding the pandemic season. Again, doesn't count. Though in the pandemic season, you guys remember they lost to Louisiana in the opener that year. Iowa State did as well. Chris Kleiman.
It's all state.
Yeah, I know. Same day. Chris Kleiman, and since he's been the coach at K-State, excluding COVID season, 7-4 versus Power 4, 16-5 overall in August and September. So take that with a grain of salt. But if you go through some of those games in Iowa State history, I mean, there's a lot of games against, like even last year, they were lethargic against North Dakota to open the season, 21-3. They had a triple overtime game against Northern Iowa. They had a 6-point win against Northern Iowa. They lost at Ohio, 1 year in 2023. Just multiple games where they're kind of and so that's a pretty impressive mark that they didn't beat a Power 4 team in August and September until 2022 in the Campbell era. They started 0-11 against Power 4 opponents in his first, that's 5-6 seasons, excluding the COVID year.
What I was going to say, it is wild to consider that this is Matt Campbell's 10th season at Iowa State.
Yeah,
it is. It is. I'll throw this in there too for a third top storyline this week is just that the quarterback narratives will be very interesting in this one because you've got Rocco Becht, who I think people have all just accepted. He's been around now for a long time, 3 years. Rocco Becht is considered legitimate, bona fide, very good Big 12 starting quarterback. Avery Johnson, again, has the hype, and I think a lot of people, you have more people thinking that Avery Johnson could have a Heisman-type season probably than Rocco Becht, just because people see the tantalizing talent that he has. But you've got a chance for Avery to really assert himself as one of the absolute top guys, if not the top guy in the Big 12 right away. Whereas Rocco Becht, especially if you do it against Becht, and if Becht does struggle, and I know that's been one of the drums that Cole has been beating all week, that Rocco Becht has been very turnover prone, has gotten a bit lucky with some of those turnover-worthy plays against K-State in the past. Didn't really have to get lucky in 23 because Abu Sama was just running all over the place. But last year, perhaps got a little bit fortunate there. So the quarterback narrative and matchup, I think, is a really, really interesting one here. It's with Avery Johnson, you've got the potential, the talent. With Rocco Becht, you've got solid guy who has really produced. Big opportunity here for Avery to win that.
Yeah, I think if you poll most of the national guys that have an opinion on these two quarterbacks and ask them who they thought was better, they'd probably tell you Rocco Becht. In fact, I heard Bruce Feldman, I don't know, I forget if it was on his own podcast or elsewhere, but he came out and just said Rocco Becht is easily a better quarterback than Avery Johnson, and the gap between them is gulf wide. So to get where he needs to be, Avery Johnson's got to, refute a lot of this buzz that is starting to formulate on him in comparison to some of the other quarterbacks in the league. And I do think some of it's unfair. Avery did have a really good sophomore season, relatively speaking. I realize that maybe some people were left wanting a little bit more because it felt like he left a little bit more out there. But at the end of the day, he still had a record-setting year and really set a bar for him to make another leap this year, which would be him maybe reaching some rarefied air in Kansas State history. So I think some of it's been unfair to Avery. I think some of it's probably been a little too generous for Rocco. Either way, he's got some opinions and thoughts out there to refute.
Well, I would also just mention that, yes, Avery had Jace Brown, who I think is a very good receiver, but his number 2 receiver last year was Jaden Jackson, Dante Cephas. Instead of Jaden, instead of Jaden Higgins or Jalen Knoll, take your pick, either one, second or third round draft pick. So, take into account who Rocco Becht was throwing to, that makes quite a difference.
Well, John, you just look at 4.2% drop rate for Iowa State's receivers last year. Avery Johnson's receivers, 11.9% drop rate, the worst among all Power 4 programs in college football, right? So you take that into account. You take account the weapons that Rocco Becht had. And I just think, how would the conversation shift on Rocco Becht if teams like K-State had capitalized on some of this horrendous mistakes that he got away with last year? You guys heard me talk about it. 20 turnover-worthy plays last season, yet he only had 9 interceptions. That's a lot of good fortune. The most breaks he received came against K-State names last year. According to Pro Football Focus, Becht got away with 3 turnover-worthy plays. I'd argue there's more than that. Parker went back and watched the game on the Discord. He counted 5. I counted 3 in the first quarter alone. 2 of them I sent to you guys. They could have been returned by K-State by Austin Romaine and Jacob Parrish for pick 6s in the game last year. And it's no coincidence. Rocco Becht's second most interceptions returned for a touchdown in college football last year. He had 3 pick 6s in 3 different Big 12 games last season. So if some of those breaks didn't go his way, this narrative changes a lot. And think about turnovers, right? I went back and looked at each of K-State's 6 games against Iowa State in the Kleiman era. Wildcats have had at least one turnover in all 6 of the matchups. Iowa State's had a turnover in just one of the 6 meetings between the two schools since 2019, the start of the Kleiman era. The only game they had a turnover was in the snow, and that they lost 2 fumbles against K-State. So K-State's lost the turnover battle 10-2 in the last 6 games combined. And this is what's really remarkable, guys. In the last 6 games against Iowa State, the Cyclones have attempted 166 passes. Not one of them has been intercepted by K-State. And what makes that more wild? But according to Pro Football Focus, 9 of those throws were turnover-worthy passes in those 6 games. 9 turnover-worthy throws, and arguably probably more, and not one picked off by the K-State defense. That's going to be huge in this game. You think about last year's loss, 2 touchdown drives by Iowa State that started 30 yards or less from the end zone, right? Because K-State gave them the ball inside the 30-yard line, inside its own 30. You got to take care of the football against these guys, and you got to capitalize against Rocco Beck. He does not have the weapons in Nolan Higgins. Nolan Higgins accounted for 63% of Rocco Beck's total passing yards in his entire career, and 57% of his total catches have come, or completions have come from Nolan Higgins in his entire career. And if you drill down to wide receiver specifically, those two accounted for 84% of his total yards passing at the wide receiver position in his career in Ames. All Rocco Beck has known during his Cyclone career is having those 2 studs out there at wide receiver. How does he play without them? And we'll get into that as we break down the offense-defense preview later.
Well, I feel like that was a lot of it right there. I mean, that's the crux of the issue. Now, I would play devil's advocate and say, I mean, Rocco Beck can get better too. You know, we're banking on Avery Johnson taking a big step this offseason. Rocco Beck can also.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
All right, your rebuttal, Cole, to Rocco Beck can get better.
Well, I mean, you're talking about a guy now that's played quite a bit of college football, right? I mean, what's the ceiling? What's the upside for Rocco Beck at this point? Like, maybe he could get a little bit better, but again, he gets a little bit better, but he doesn't have quite the same skill talent out wide. You know, I think he's got a couple of really good tight ends in Ben Brahmer and Gabe Burkle, who we can talk about as well. But look, Rocco Beck ranked 84th in the country last year in completion percentage, 59% completion percentage. All right, 56th nationally in passer rating. It dropped 12 points last year, despite having those 2 studs at wide receiver. Yeah, we talk about Rocco Beck and Avery Johnson as this big gap, right? Avery Johnson's pass efficiency was only 1.5 points lower than Rocco Beck in 2024. Avery ranked 62nd in the country. Beck was 56. Beck's yards per pass attempt last year, 7.7. It ranked 44th in the country after ranking number 23 nationally with 8.5 yards per pass in 2023. And again, I mentioned the drop rates already. So how does he handle not having those 2 guys out wide? And you look at it as well, though, like the one thing that you got to pay respect to is his ability to throw the ball downfield. Iowa State 26th in the country in passive explosives and had the 3rd best mark in the Big 12 in passing explosiveness last year. Beck completed 53 passes of 20 or more yards in 2024. That tied for the 12th most in the country, while ranking number 3 in the Big 12 behind Josh Hoover of TCU and Colorado Shedeur Sanders. He completed 10 passes of 40 or more yards, ranking number 22 in the country. Avery Johnson also completed 10 passes of 40-plus yards, tying Rocco Beck. Over the past 2 seasons, Beck has a 93 passing grade from PFF on throws of 20-plus yards while making 31 big-time throws at 20 or more yards. Both are top 25 marks in the country per PFF. But again, he's a bit of a gunslinger when it comes to throwing the ball downfield, often takes chances, could result in a turnover. The concern you have here, guys, and again, we know Nolan Higgins aren't there and they're big play guys, but Iowa State's passing game, what will that look like against a K-State secondary that lacks experience? And we know explosives have been a huge problem for Kansas State over the last 2 years. K-State ranked 128th out of 134 FBS teams and last in the Big 12 in passing explosives allowed. And in 2023, it was a huge problem. Again, 59 plays of 20 or more yards in 2024 in rushes and completions combined, 86th in the country, et cetera. Last year was the 2nd worst pass efficiency rating defensively of the Kleiman era. And you had Jacob Parrish, a 3rd-round pick, and Marquis Siegel, a 5th-round pick at safety back there. So what does K-State's secondary look like against a relatively inexperienced and new Iowa State receiving core? But again, they have 2 really good tight ends in Burkle and Brahmer. I think that's going to be the key, guys. I think K-State's ability to cover those 2 tight ends, 6'6", 6'7", good pieces in that offense. They're going to be Beck's security blanket in this game. K-State has to lock in on those guys because I'll be frank, I'm not that scared of Chase Soule. He comes from East Carolina, and I think he's more of a product of the system that he came from. 20 yards per catch last year, but they hired the Ole Miss offensive assistant who came over, and East Carolina led the country in explosive plays of 40-plus yards at 19 through the air. I think he's I think he's probably a fine player, but he's an ore on that depth chart at wide receiver. Xavier Townsend, a UCF transfer, 7.9 yards per catch on 66 receptions in his 3 years of college football, coming from an offensive-friendly scheme of Gus Malzahn at UCF. It doesn't scare me. All right, so the tight ends are where I get nervous.
Well, in fairness with Townsend, I mean, he did opt out after 4 games last year, right? So, I mean, that hurt the numbers some.
Well, he's got 66 receptions in his career. I mean, yeah, if I'm looking at like yards per reception, 7.9. I mean, that's a terrible number. So, yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I say that the quarterback situation was kind of a dumpster fire at UCF last year. That probably wasn't going to. I know people hate that, but that may have been kind of a sound decision by him to look at that and be like, yeah, this doesn't seem like it's going to be very good. Anyway, yeah, I would say Iowa State's running game does not appear very strong on paper. I know, insert Abu Sama joke here, but he has not been overly productive outside of that game in Manhattan a couple of seasons ago. Carson Hansen's okay. But I think, so this is probably going to come down to what happens with the secondary, because all you'd have to do, I mean, man, thinking about early games last year, not played at home. All you got to do is flip on the tape of Darian Mensah. I'm sure Rocco Beck flipped on the tape of Darian Mensah last year for Tulane and some of those high school wide open receivers there and was like, yo, this looks awesome. Yeah. So you can't have another one of those performances.
I would agree.
Yeah. Okay. Great analysis. You can't. Yeah, we can't. K-State cannot let receivers run wide ass open on Saturday. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
Everybody.
I'll take a step further. I think the key will be to stop their running game and make sure it is stopped, because if it is, then you can have your pass rushers pin their ears back and maybe help out in the pass defense.
Yeah, I think that's a good call out, DY. I mean, I think if you can minimize their running game, which again, they don't strike fear into you with the explosiveness of Carson Hansen, Abu Sama, but Abu Sama, 23% of his career total rushing yards in 2 seasons at Iowa State, right. 26 games came against K-State, right, in 1 game. And he had 81 yards on 15 carries last year, too. So, like, he's probably got over 30% of his career rushing yards against K-State.
Make them one-dimensional, and that one dimension is a work in progress a little bit.
Yeah. All right, defensive side of the ball, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, we've hit on some of the defensive stuff. Like John Haycock, really good defensive coordinator, 24th defensively in the SP Plus last year. I'll try to go a little bit quicker on this side of the football. Look, they lost corner Darian Porter, taken in the 3rd round of the 2025 NFL Draft. Longtime starting corner Miles Purchase also gone. Bo Freiler, Malik Verdon, 2 stud safeties. They're both gone, but they have Dominique Orange, number 7 defensive tackle in Pro Football Focus national rankings. At D tackle, Jontez Williams, number 9 corner per PFF, really good player. Caleb Bacon, really good linebacker. To me, John, this and DY, their linebackers are by far and away the strength of their defense. And then they got a couple good players on the back end of that defense. It's a team that doesn't get after you. They don't get after the quarterback at all. If you look at the time there, John Haycock's defense, you mentioned DY, he even came out and said he doesn't really believe sacks matter, right?
Essentially, that was his roundabout answer. Sacks aren't a thing.
Yeah, so at 1.14 sacks per game last year, 130th out of 134 FBS teams, only 16 sacks in the season, 100th nationally with 4.9 tackles for loss per game last year. So they didn't create a lot of negative plays. 111th in sacks per game in 2023 nationally, 1.6, second worst in the Big 12, 114th in 2022 at 1.5 per sacks per game, last in the Big 12. So not a defense that gets after the quarterback, which makes you feel a little bit better. Obviously, when you talk about K-State's offensive line, breaking in new tackles, new bodies up front, this is not a team that creates a ton of pressure and a lot of different looks for your offensive line. Last year was kind of an outlier for Iowa State. They allowed 5.35 yards per carry, ranking 126 out of 134 FBS teams. That was the second worst among Power 4 teams, only ahead of Oklahoma State. 110th nationally, allowing 188 yards per game on the ground. In 2023, guys, 3.8 yards per carry, 40th in the country. number 7 in the country at 3.2 yards per rush in 2022. And then they were the same in 2021, 3.2 yards per rush that year as well. So last year, more of an outlier. I think that ties in. They had a lot of injuries at linebacker last year, and as a result, they've got most of those guys back. Jeremiah Cooper back at safety. He didn't quite meet the expectations bestowed upon him in 2024 following a 2023 season where he was named first team All Big 12. But he's back. And again, Jontez Williams, one of the better corners in the Big 12 as well. It's a defense that was 13th in the country in pass efficiency defense last year, number 3 in the Big 12. And again, only 166 yards allowed per game through the air, the fewest in the country, 15 interceptions, tied for 22nd in the country. So really solid when it comes to the back end of that defense, but they're replacing 4 out of their top 6 guys back there. So they've got some question marks too. I think they're going to be much improved against the run this year. And unfortunately, K-State couldn't take advantage of their awful run defense last year when they played. K-State had 144 yards on the ground. It was the 3rd fewest the Wildcats ran for last season in a game. And that's certainly disappointing. You got to have at least a respectable enough run game, guys, where you're getting at least 4 yards per carry against the Cyclones to allow you to utilize the play action game a little bit more and be more effective there, because we know Avery Johnson's numbers take a significant leap when they go play action. And I can't wait to see what Matt Wells does with that and what this system looks like with him calling the shots.
By the time they got to that game in Ames at the end of the year, I think DJ Giddens was a little worn down, beaten up, if you want a little bit of optimism to them being able to run the ball more first game of the year. We'll see, but I'm with you. Look, John Heacock's an excellent defensive coordinator. I think they will be much better against the run this year. I'm with you on that. Okay. Time for some quick hitters. You ready? We were just talking about Xavier Townsend, one of the transfer receivers for Iowa State there. To me, he seems very similar to Jerron Tibbs, right? Like Townsend, 66 for 521, 4 TDs in 3 years. Tibbs, 30 for 347, 2 TDs in 2 years. They're both transferring in here. They're probably looking at being the number 2 receiver on these teams. So who has more receiving yards in this game, guys? Jerron Tibbs or Xavier Townsend?
That's a good question. This is why I don't look at the outline, John, because then I'm surprised and you get a very genuine answer. Cole probably rehearsed this in front of the mirror this morning. So
wow.
It does feel like a lot of what Cole has done today has been like, rehearsed in front of a mirror. Vanessa may have been critiquing him or something. I don't know.
Oh, she looked in I did rehearse something. She looked in my office window this morning as she heard The Heart Will Go On Titanic theme song and was like, what in the world?
You never really explained that, by the way. I feel like people maybe put that together that 1912 was the year the Titanic sank, but that was never
touching song.
Never actually explained. Yeah, anyway.
He left that out there for everyone to kind of learn and discover on their own, Sometimes you got to let the people do their own research.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. DY, did you pick somebody, DY?
I'll pick Tibbs because he's been my guy all off season. No real conviction or reason here, to be quite honest. What I will say is I'm sure he doesn't feel it because he hasn't been around Kent State to realize the transfer wide receiver pedigree or the history of hyped up receivers that don't necessarily amount to much. But there is actually a lot of pressure on him to actually do something in this game because those drum beats are just going to return if he kind of has a game with very little to no production.
Yeah, it's Tibbs easily. Xavier Townsend, I just not that high on him. So I think Tibbs will have a decently.
The only way it could be Townsend is if Iowa State has to throw a lot more than K-State. I think there's potential for that.
They may use Townsend some in the rushing game. UCF, I think he had like 278 rushing yards and about 8.5 yards per carry. Actually, more yards per carry in his career than receptions. As far as yards per catch, which is unusual. I
have more faith in the K-State run game. So if you want to go that way, then maybe Iowa State's throwing more and Townsend gets more opportunities.
Yeah. So.
You're right, DY. You got to get the monkey off your back when it comes to receivers in general, but transfer receivers. I'm just going to go Jerron Tibbs based on my heart.
Yeah.
Because my heart will go on. Yes. Thank you, Cole. We were on the same page there.
John's going with his heart now. We'll see if he changed his prediction by the end of the show.
Didn't look like it on the outline. In fact, looked like
hey.
I doxed you.
I mean, I don't know that
Whatever.
somebody
John.
on the Discord later, please explain doxing to Cole.
Maybe that's the swerve. John's trying to swerve Cole there. Yeah.
K-State, I was doing some research last night on the last time that K-State played a game overseas. This is only the second time.
Tokyo.
It was, of course, 1992 when they played in Tokyo. They played Nebraska in the Coca-Cola Bowl at the end of the year. It's on YouTube, by the way. Very fascinating. I was listening to Tom Osborne talk about that, and he was talking about how, like, the fans, there were only like 200 fans that came for Nebraska. I'm sure it was less for K-State, but the Tokyo Dome, which it blows my mind. K-State was playing a football game in the Tokyo Dome, but it's filled with fans, and they just picked out a team to cheer for. And Osborne was talking about, he's like, yeah, they didn't really know the rules, so like the biggest cheers of the game came on extra points because they could like see the ball go through the goal. I was just like, what a fascinating thing. And Nebraska had to win that game to go to the Orange Bowl. I was just like, how did that happen? Anyway, K-State threw for 253 yards in that game, right? This was back in the era. This was the year before Chad May. I didn't even recognize the quarterback's name that was playing for K-State. Legitimately had never heard of the man in my life. I'll look it up for you here in a second because I don't even remember.
Wasn't Watson, right? He was before that.
No, it was not a guy. And I know all the old guys. It was not anybody I'd ever heard of.
This goes back to what we were just talking about before, but one of these games, I want John to send Cole just a fake outline, and Cole just like think he's actually getting the outline of the show. It's a completely different show than what he thinks it's
That's
going
actually
to be.
a great idea. I will use that this year, DY. That's a great idea. Thank you.
And
Thanks for giving me a heads up. I'll make sure to double check.
Yep. Well, now you're paranoid every game, so that's going to be great. So also, according to Jonathan Giovanni, formerly of ESPN, he has this Draft Express thing. Doran Buka has officially committed to Kansas State.
The question is, will K-State have over or under 253 passing yards in this game? Because they threw for 253 the last time they went outside the country.
253? Probably a little lower.
Yeah.
Avery's over under was at 201 and a half. I saw.
Yeah, it's gonna be a low scoring game, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I was at that Tokyo game. I was 6 years old, and I was one of the 200, John. No. 253 yards. All right. So K-State went over the 253 mark 3 times last year. They met the 253 mark. They threw for 253 against KU, 298 against West Virginia, 259 against Oklahoma State, and 258 against Arizona State. So they did it 4 times, but Iowa State with their secondary, it's going to be tough swinging to get the 253 right out of the gate in the opener. So I'm going to take the under on that.
Okay. I will take the under as well. I do think it could be close. But I'll take the under. And that part of the reason I used it as a question is just to emphasize, I mean, this is the genius of Bill Snyder. That was 1992, and we're saying they're throwing for more yards than K-State's going to throw for here in 2025. But that was K-State's zig to the zag of everybody running the ball back then. Cole, the quarterback, this is what it says. Garber was the last name that I see in passing, threw for 246 of the yards. Mitch Running threw for 7.
Did K-State give up their home game?
Shame. They did. Yeah, they did.
Shame.
Malt Garber is what the name is on that.
Sounds like a drink.
Canaan's boy.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's misspelled because when I Google it, it comes up Matt Garber. But literally the box score here says Malt Garber. They couldn't even get the guy's name right.
Keenan's Malt's boy.
Matt Garber. Yeah, I knew Paul Watson. Jason Smargesso was like running around at some point there. Chad May. I had not heard of Matt Garber. Didn't know that. Shout out to Matt Garber. Okay. This is probably the biggest question that we have. Which number will be higher? The number of Ben Holiday bottled and bond bourbon glasses that Cole consumes during the game, okay, not before or after, during the game, or Rocco Becht turnovers? Rocco Becht turnovers or the number of whiskeys that Cole will drink during the game?
Whiskeys.
Yeah. I mean, if Rocco Becht meets that number that I'm going to have a Ben Holiday bottled and bond bourbons, he's going to have a record day of turnovers, all right? Because I'm going 5 deep, all right? Now, here, I will say this, like, will the
Lord help us all.
Will the luck cat? Yeah, I mean, I would say something like college football runs through Ireland, whatever. I mean, through Europe, through the ocean, whatever. Will the luck run out on Rocco Becht with getting away with so many of the mistakes that he made? I mean, that's obviously a big question. I'll say this, like, I will do 2 shots of Ben Holiday bottled and bond bourbon when he throws his first pick against K-State on Saturday. But I'll also just tell you guys that, again, Rocco Beck's going to throw a pick 6 in this game. So I will stand on the table and do a shot as well when that happens.
I was really hoping that you were going to go all in on your Rocco Beck. I set this up for you to go all in on your Rocco Beck take that he was going to be a turnover machine.
That's a really hard number to meet. But I just told you also, John, that they have 2 turnovers in the last 6 games against K-State. I mean, it just the math isn't in my favor.
Okay. All right. Well, I tried. If you're starting a team tomorrow, who would you rather have as your starting quarterback, Rocco Becht or Jalen Daniels? Having a draft there. Who you taking, DY? Jalen Daniels or Rocco Becht?
If I'm a NFL team?
No, if you're a college football team, you are K-State. You get your choice.
Rocco Becht or Jalen? Rocco.
Yeah, I'll take Jalen Daniels.
I knew I could get Cole. I knew I could get Cole on that over to Jalen Daniels, JD6. I would take Rocco Becht. I would take Rocco Becht.
Wow.
Maybe
this one's kind of mean.
Yeah, maybe I'll skip that one. I don't. But the answer is going to be neither. They will find somebody else. This will be an inside joke in the show. The answer is going to be neither. They will find somebody else because the Discord is way too hard on 2 players that have just everyone's bored. It's August. It's the off season. They just crush the same 2 guys over and over again. Which trip would you be more likely to make if K-State does another international game? Japan or Ireland? Would you rather go to Tokyo or would you rather go to Dublin?
Dublin.
Yeah, I mean, Ireland, John, I don't like traveling and flying great distances.
Japan's harder.
Yeah, Ireland's closer, and I would struggle. I can't speak Japanese, but they speak English in Ireland, right? So I could communicate better, especially if I don't have Vanessa with me.
He said right. He had to confirm that.
I would way rather go to Tokyo. Tokyo sounds awesome, man. By the way, DY, the difference here, Tokyo is 6,127 miles from MHK, Ireland 4,140. So it is significantly further, but I would much rather go check out Tokyo. I would be there right now. We'd have Ben Holiday bottled and bond bourbon. We'd be introducing it out on the streets of Tokyo to folks if that's what we're happening right now. So Nick says they speak Irish in Ireland. Thank you for that, Nick. Lead pipe lock of the week. I hope you guys are ready. I hope you didn't forget that we've got a lead pipe lock of the week that you got to divulge here. DY is our reigning champion. Congratulations. DY won. Yeah. It was like a game, but Cole was the one that had a historically awful run last year. DY 7-5-1 last year. Congrats. I think I was like 5-7.
The problem is when you win, no one tells you win until a year later. Like, what is up with that?
Yeah, that is how it works. Well, you're getting your flowers here, okay. My pick, week 0, Hawaii -2.5 against Stanford. Stanford's awful, and they fired their coach in April, right? So, like, we're expecting Stanford to have it all together and ready to go on the road to start the year.
Actually, that was one of the things I considered too. We had to make 3 best bets when Mason and I do our show earlier in the week, and that was one of them. But I'll go the K-State Iowa State game under 49.5. I don't see it getting to 50.
Yeah. People might look at this lead pipe block of the week and say, man,
it's the cat covering.
13 of the last 16 games against Kansas State and Iowa State dating back to 2008 have been decided by 1 score. Can you believe that? John, can you believe that? 2008, 13 of 16, 1-score games. I mean, we obviously, K-State beat them by 34 in 2013. Again, Jake Waters, phenomenal in that game. Just shout out to him, except not shout out to him today.
Yeah, I was going to say, what are you doing? He's on the other staff.
Yeah, you're the enemy right now, Jake. So, come back to Kansas State and you won't be the enemy. But you will tweet to John. So, 34-point victory, 10-point victory in 2019 by K-State, and then 13 by Iowa State in 2021. Again, COVID season doesn't count, so we don't count that 45-0 drubbing that K-State took in Ames. But yet here I am. I'm going to take K-State -3 and the honoring of the Iowa State football team from 1912.
Wow.
Over. Wildcats win this game 27-20.
Wow, an emphatic one-score cover there. Yeah, emphatic.
Emphatic. Yeah. He acted like Iowa State was trash the entire show. Picks K-State to win by a touchdown.
So Cole just doubled up. He transitioned us. That was actually quite a good transition into the final portion of the show here where we pick a winner. I also would like to give Nick credit for saying the Holiday Distillery would need to make a sake if they were playing in Japan. That'd be great. Some Ben Holiday bottled and bond sake. I'll be passing that out on the streets to everybody out there. Okay, DY, I guess I'll let you go second here. We'll hold the suspense as to whether or not I'm sticking to my prediction from the entire offseason that K-State will lose to Iowa State.
Appreciate the suspense. I got the Cats by 6, 23-17. I think it's a very low-scoring game. Low scoring, 23-17. These games in Ireland are typical conditions, are conducive to lower scoring. And I think the matchup with these teams that know each other so well, they're going to play 2 times before a calendar year really runs out. I think they know each other well, and I think that is sometimes conducive to low scoring games as well. Iowa State's defense will be improved. Their offense will probably be a little wonky at first, just like Kansas State's defense. But the fact that Kansas State could stop the run, I like that a lot better than if I was Iowa State. So I'll take K-State 23-17. You just hope it doesn't become a kicking game because I think Cyclones may have the better kicker.
Yeah, Luis Rodriguez. Who knows, man? If it comes down to the kicking game, and I saw you pointed out, DY, in your analysis of the special teams depth chart, like K-State rolling with the same long snapper. There were some issues with that last year. So, hopefully Nate Katzer's got all that figured out. Well, Cole, you'll recall, last year, every time I picked K-State to win, I had this thing, that I would put on if I picked K-State to win. So, I am holding it in my hand right now.
Yeah. Oh, they're so dramatic. You picked Iowa State already on multiple shows heading into this. So everybody knows you're too soft. You're too soft to pivot off of picking Iowa State. Kurtz.
He's trying to convince Kurtz to do it again.
Wouldn't want to piss off Matt Campbell and the Cyclone fans. I dare you. I dare you to pick against Iowa State.
Look, Cole, I feel like I am in large part responsible, along with Bosco's boys, and not just Scott, but Grant as well, for turbocharging this rivalry. The only reason that we care as much about this Iowa State game is because around 2016, 2017, we were 2 online and pushed everything that way. Okay. So look, I am the godfather, the co-godfather of Farmageddon, but I have to realize reality when it's reality, man. Matt Campbell has owned this series lately for the last 5. First game of the year. I've got to see Avery Johnson take a step forward. I've got to see Chris Kleiman actually beat Matt Campbell and not rely on Xavier Hutchinson dropping a pass to do it the one time in the last 5 years before I actually pick it. Okay. So I hope I'm wrong. I hope he gets to dunk all over me. Everybody at the sold out watch party at Holiday Distillery can do it, and it'll be a great time. I will never have more fun dunking on me, but I'm sorry. I'm picking Iowa State 30-24. Also, I'm a little worried about the back end of this defense. Not feeling great about safety.
Don't have a Cyclone chain? Figured you did. So
I don't know.
Just mosey back on over to Cyclone Fanatics. If anybody wants Kurtz login, it's Matt Campbell, Love Fest, password, Matt Campbell, John Kurtz. I blew that joke, but,
it was an easy one. Just you got to throw a 69 in there somewhere,
Well, I didn't want to be too inappropriate, so did not do that, but, blew that one. But, soft, John, that you wouldn't back off that pick.
Wait, hold on. It's soft that I stuck by my guns, even in the face of pressure. I stuck to what I had been saying the entire offseason. I stuck to my preseason Big 12 ballot that had Iowa State a spot above K-State.
Yeah, DY John mentions the Xavier Hutchinson drop pass, but he doesn't mention Malik Knowles fumbling at the half-yard line on a 70-yard touchdown in that game that would have put him up 2 scores.
It wasn't a fond memory.
Well,
yeah, I blocked that out. Thank you.
Okay, well, we're talking about a break. You're talking about getting a break to win that game, right? That was a fluke play.
It was also a 4-win Iowa State team, and K-State was the Big 12 champ. So,
fine. All right. Well, it's going to be tough co-hosting a show Saturday with with the Cyclone fan, but I'll do my best, guys.
DY, safe travels to Ireland. You leaving tomorrow?
Yes. Tomorrow is Wednesday for those.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, whatever. That means nothing to anybody. Okay.
Please text us when you land and let us know that you're safely there. So
Okay.
that would mean a lot. And we'll bring you on live on the show after K-State wins and
Yes,
have a big
Dad.
party.
Yes, Dad.
Okay.
Do you do that? Do they have internet in Ireland? Is that how that works? Can you pop on?
I think so.
Okay. Yeah.
The way you just said like the yes daddy makes me think of Harambe on the Discord when he always posts that gorilla
That's
one.
exactly what it is. Patreon.com/3moth if you want to get in on that inside joke. Patreon.com/3moth people. I forgot I was supposed to mention today, Cole. We've done what? 10 what is it? 10 shows?
Around 10, so 10 over the last like 6-7 weeks. Several articles written up there. Catch the John Pastore pod. He was our player guest this week, starting left tackle for K-State. That's brought to you by Riverbank Brewing and Council Grove. Please go support them and Wildcat NIL at catsnil.com. And then Curry and I, if you're listening to this, I anticipate you may have already listened to the show with Curry and I. We are recording this week as well, and we'll bring back the all 22 film review this year, just like we did, which was very popular with many of you last year. We'll bring that back due to travel schedules. We may not have it this next week after the Iowa State game, but probably the ensuing week we'll break down some of the film from Iowa State and then North Dakota as well. And hopefully we're talking about a 2-0 Cats team at that point.
I appreciate Nick Springer behind the scenes as always. Thank you to our friends at Elenco. Thank you to our friends at Holiday Distillery. We'll see you guys all out there on Saturday if you bought tickets, or, remember, suck up to me. That's the only other way to get in right now. All right. Take care, everybody. We'll see you. Talk to you after a Cats victory, hopefully.